Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to DRG. Welcome back to the vlog. We have some more cars, and we're going to be doing some RC cars as well. Also, we want to do some, what, the 120, 118, 124 probably.
124 is in the future.
Okay, so I'm Aaron Truth.
Mawnbak.
All right. So we got it. Like we told you, we're going to be going into the Fords. After we started off with the Dodge Vipers.
Started off with the Vipers.
Yeah, man.
Then we went to the
Gen 1s. We did Gen 1, went to Gen 2, and we went to the competition version of the Viper. It was pretty cool. Then that model was something else. And then we started 1964 Corvette, the 69, we did 82.
All the way to 2020.
Man, all the way. So, and finished off with that C8 and some pizza. So all right. So now
back with what I think is the greatest race car of all time.
Wow.
Ford GT40.
Me too. Absolutely.
So behind the camera we have the living encyclopedia on GT40s. His name is Ken Thomason. So why don't you tell us a little about the #1 Ken Miles car?
Well, everything started back in 1964. Ford created Ford Advanced Vehicles based in England. So you basically had American engineers, British engineers working together to develop a new car that could basically compete with Ferrari directly in the European racing and American endurance racing, and basically beat them at their game. Up to that point, Ferrari had won all of the Le Mans races in the 60s from 1960 up. So in 64, Ford wanted to change that, basically after a broken deal with Ford trying to acquire Ferrari. So they got with Eric Broadley, who had a car designed under Lola, and based off that Lola design, they pretty much bought the rights from Eric Broadley. That's why when he went out and did another Lola, it wasn't that particular. He had to basically start from scratch. Ford basically bought his car design and worked from that. They studied it. They came up with their own solution that was very similar. It wasn't exact. It was similar to that design, but it was their own basic design in 64. Very advanced for the time. A lot of manufacturing processes, suspension, chassis, monocoque chassis was unique. Nobody else had come up with that design up to that point. They tried in 64, failed. They had the wrong transmissions, the wrong motor. They had an IndyCar motor, which was a 255 IndyCar 4-cam. It didn't work too well. They had a Colati, which is an Italian company's 4-speed box. Wasn't up to the torque of the V8, and they had the Baroni wire wheels, which could not handle the torque. So 65, they went back again, and they basically handed the mission over to Shelby American. Basically told him, you've got a short period of time to get these cars race worthy, work out the bugs, because we're trying to do this. So 65. They sent a car to Shelby American. They modified it and raced it around, I forget the racetrack that's in Willow Springs. Okay,
Willow
so
Springs.
they use Willow Springs as the test circuit, and they modified the bodywork. They modified the motor, put a 289 Ford iron block, I believe, in there. Adjusted suspension, used I believe Hallebrand wheels, the same wheels that they were using off of the Cobras.
Wow.
And then they went racing at Daytona, and they basically swept and won Daytona.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But in '65, they did not win Le Mans. They had another mechanical failure. But they did win a couple. I think it was Daytona, and I want to say Sebring. But then they went to Le Mans and failed. Ford was also developing the 427 with the long nose and the wings. They call it the Batmobile because it had little canard wings in the back. So they were also trying to co-develop the 427. So those all did not finish the race, but they had the fastest lap times of any car on the track. So everybody knew it was fast.
Wow.
Okay, dial into 66. So at this point, Ford was frustrated. 2 years of failure at Le Mans. They had a good car. It was winning races in short circuits, but the endurance races, it wasn't really winning. It's basically Le Mans. That was their main concern. They could care less about the other races. And before the second wanted to win Le Mans. So in '66, they fielded 3 teams: Holman, Moody, Shelby, American, and Alan Mann Racing. So the one, Alan Mann was a British team. Holman and Moody was basically stock car, and then you had Shelby American. So they had 3 teams, all the cars, and they basically went out in mass with the number 1 car you see here in the video. That particular car, the livery on that is Ken Miles. Ken Miles was my personal driving hero when I was growing up as a child, one of them at least. So I tried to emulate his ethos as far as a racer goes. There was a lot of others, Mario Andretti, Dan Gurney, but Ken Miles was the main man.
Wow.
A lot of people said he was difficult to work with, but as a driver, he was
the G.
He was a genius driver, and he was also an engineer and mechanic. So, but number 1 car is his, and he basically he didn't run the race first place starting. He had a bad start. His door wouldn't shut, but by a couple laps, he had already caught up the leaders and was leading the race.
Wow.
And just like in the movie Ford versus Ferrari, he had a blistering pace. I think he had something to prove. So he was really way ahead of everybody else for that whole race. And of course, I forget his co-driver. Maybe that's because co-driver really doesn't matter because Ken Miles was the main man. But they knew that the car was a strong car. Dynamometer testing of the 427 big block, they ran it for 48 hours, so they knew it could hold together for 48 hours. A simulated Le Mans driving, that was basically a simulated throttle up, shifting for 48 hours at Le Mans. So they knew the motor could hold up. It was basically low revving, high torque motor. It could lazy Susan around the whole course, whereas the other European cars with smaller displacement, like 3 liters, had to rev a lot higher. So at that pace, hopefully the other cars would brake trying to keep up with the Ford, and a lot of them did brake. Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this car basically led almost the whole race. Because of Ford's decision to have a 3-way across finish, Ken Miles lost as under a technicality and Bruce McLaren won. So the black car is the winner for that race. But number 1 should have actually technically
It's the
won.
real winner.
Is the real winner of the race. But because of a technicality, Bruce McLaren started, I think, 4 cars back, had covered more distance. So anyway, it's a wash. We all know number 1 and Ken Miles basically won that race.
Unbelievable.
You want to find out more about the story? Go see that movie, Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah, he wants to mention something about the number 9.
This is the number 9.
Okay, so after the win in '66, Ford went and developed a J car. They called it the J car, his prototype development. That spawned into the GT40 Mark IV, which was designed, engineered all from Ford. They didn't have any outside help from any European designers or British designers. It was all in-house Ford. The motor used off-the-shelf Ford parts. So anything in that motor you could buy off the shelf at your Ford dealer. That's what they wanted to prove, that they could take their motor, they could develop a chassis, their engineers could win the championship or win that race and beat everybody. So they actually did. And that one was Dan Gurney and AJ Foyt running in a red car. I believe it was number 1. And they pretty much had that race from start to finish. Nobody could beat them.
Unbelievable.
Because of that dominance, the FIA, which is the ruling body, changed the rules. They eliminated big blocks. So like anything over 5 liters was banned. So Ford proved the point. They raced there from 64, 65, 66, 67. Won in 66, 67. Dominated them in those 2 years. So they proved their point. They pulled out. Privateers, John Wyer's team was campaigning Mirage, which was a modified GT40 Mark I with a different roof profile, which put it in its own special category outside of the GT40 chassis. He converted his cars back to GT40 Mark I spec, basically replaced the roof with a standard roof. He had 302 motors with Gurney Westlake dry deck heads, so they were basically dry sump heads. And Weber carbs, basically a Mark I chassis that was modified. They had modified the rear section with more bulbous fender covers for the tires because the tires were larger. And they fielded 3 cars in 1968. Jackie Eakes won that race in chassis number 1076 easily. But basically, the 302 motor produced equal, if not more, horsepower than the previous year's 427, but less torque because it's a smaller displacement. Didn't matter because once you spun up, the horsepower is taken over the top end. So it had less torque coming out of corners, but it had equal horsepower on the top. So in the Mulsanne straight, it can go just as fast, if not a little faster, than the previous 2 years, the GT40 Mark IIs and the Mark IV. So its claim to fame is in '69 they went back to Le Mans. That team was racing the GT40, and I think other privateers were also racing GT40 Mark I's. But they won it again. And 1076 is the chassis number that won the race in '68 and '69. It became the first chassis to win the race back to back. And I believe it was Jackie Eakes again. You can correct me if I was wrong, but I think Jackie Eakes was also racing the car in '69 and won it. So that would have put him as the one racer to race the same chassis twice and win the race 2 times straight. So that pretty much ended the dominance of the GT40, because technically it was a little bit outdated, long on the tooth by '69. In the meantime, in the backstory, Porsche had been working on their 917s. They had mechanical failures, all those different races. In a matter of fact, in the '69 race, it ended up being Redmond racing against Eakes, and Redmond had a 908 Porsche, and the 917s had been retired. But in 1970, the 917s won the race and pretty much dominated.
That's good that you mentioned winning that, because we're going to be going into Porsche pretty soon. That's pretty soon.
The 917 was a legend in itself, and basically took over the baton from the GT40's dominance at the end of the '60s.
So that's coming up. So we're gonna talk about that actually. another clip probably.
So
that was a mouthful. Okay?
I told you
that was a mouthful.
My personal favorite is
we unleashed the beast.
the Mark 1.
That we unleashed the
Mark
beast.
1B, which
So,
is the number.
We're gonna stop it right here because it's gone too far. It's well over the time. But thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. DRG channel. Aaron Truth, Mawnbak.
Kentama-san.
All right. Peace.
You filming me, right? Don't you?
Look at that. Look at this. Got another model. It's another car. See? I mean, we have.
Certificate of authenticity.
Authenticity. He said, well, you know what? No outtakes. No outtakes. We don't do outtakes.
Certificate of authenticity.
Yeah. This is crazy. That's crazy. It's all coming for you. Remember that one? See, we did that. Remember that? We did some of these back there. Oh yeah, it's gonna, we've got more for you.